Speaking with Bob Franz on The Answer.
All right, 10:35. Let's march onward. Did a great deal of discussion and presentation in the first hour on the city of Cleveland's horrific consent decree they continue to suffer under. More bad news for our fair city. We may be host to the worst and wokest. Let me rephrase. I won't say worst because they didn't allege worst. They allege wokest hospital in America.
Is Cleveland Clinic the wokest hospital in America? They prioritize care based on skin color, perform child sex changes, push transgender propaganda on vulnerable kids, insert DEI into everything they do, and spend millions on climate activism. The CEO admits it. Healthcare is only part of their mission. Cleveland Clinic, focused on a political agenda, not what's best for patients. Visit clevelandclinicexposed.com.
That 30-second commercial was supposedly aired last night during the Cavaliers game. I don't watch the NBA anymore, so I don't know if it did or not. But it has tongues wagging, and it has Cleveland Clinic responding. They issued a statement yesterday saying none of that is true. So I said, well, the Consumers Research Organization says it's true. The Cleveland Clinic says it's not. Let's find out a little bit more detail on this. Will Hild, representing Consumers Research, joining us now on AM 1420, The Answer. Second time we've talked to Will on this program. So, Will, welcome back. It's good to have you. How are you?
Great to be with you. Thanks for having us on to talk about this very important issue.
So you guys, boy, oh boy, you have a lot of people talking right now. It's on every news channel in Cleveland. The Cleveland Clinic administration is responding to it. So let's dive in. First of all, for those who do not know and maybe didn't recall our last conversation, tell us who Consumers Research is. What do you guys do?
Absolutely. We're the nation's oldest consumer protection organization, founded in 1929. So we have a 90-year pedigree of standing up for consumers in the marketplace. I came on as executive director about 5 years ago with the main focus of retooling the organization to focus on fighting woke capitalism and this woke mind virus, as Elon Musk calls it, that's sort of taken over so many of our hallowed institutions, such as Cleveland Clinic.
Okay, so that's a good background, and it is very important. I think we need consumer watchdogs. We need consumer whistleblowers and reporters out there telling everybody what exactly is going on so they can make wise decisions on where they choose to get their goods and services. So that's good. Now, I have read over the course of the last several years, really doing this radio show, of a lot of hospitals doing a lot of really, really questionable things. For example, down in Cincinnati, so stay in state here. The Cincinnati Children's Hospital is among those that refuse to put patients on heart transplant lists, life-saving procedures that are needed if they won't take the COVID shot, even if they have religious exemption reasons for that. I think that's incredibly woke. There are others who are doing things like, I think, the Akron Children's Hospital, again, staying in state. They host drag queen story hour type things, and they have some of the same things that Cleveland Clinic is allegedly doing here as well. So what makes Cleveland, Will, the worst of the worst among a lot of hospitals that are not necessarily putting patient care first, it would appear?
Certainly. Well, what I would say to that is that they really have managed to have the trifecta of wokeness within the healthcare space that we've seen. What I mean by that is, one, they have been using DEI, using race and sex-based discrimination, not just in their hiring and promotion, when they committed to train and hire, promote 1 million black Americans into family-sustaining jobs. That's a direct quote from them, so they're setting racial quotas in their hiring and their promotion. But in addition to that, they were successfully sued by a group for prioritizing certain patient populations based on skin color over others in their minority stroke program and minority men's health center. So they are not only using DEI in their hiring and their promotion, managing their own employees, they're using DEI in how they treat their patients. And I think that's disgusting and needs to stop. And it's illegal. You can't violate people's civil rights that way. The second thing, and I'm going to say the worst for last, but the second thing is that they have put climate activism into everything they do. And again, that's a direct quote from them, not me. The problem with that is when these hospitals take these net zero pledges, and Cleveland Clinic has done one of the most aggressive I've ever seen. They've set to be carbon neutral by 2027. There is no way to do that using existing technologies. You think of all of the thousands of products that a hospital has to use that are made out of plastic. that are petroleum products. What they mean by hitting net zero by 2027 is that they have to go out and buy a bunch of these types of carbon credits in order to claim that they are carbon neutral. But that money has to be recouped somewhere, which means that is bad. It's one of the things we've seen across the entire net zero industry. Any companies that set these net zero targets, it ends up increasing costs for consumers because they either have to be less efficient or they just have to pay for these carbon credits. And just to give you one example, in 2016, they pledged $7.5 million annually towards greening initiatives. This is large money that we're talking about that at some point has to be passed on to consumers. But last, but certainly not least, I think it's the worst thing. They have engaged in surgeries on minors around so-called gender-affirming care. I call it gender mutilation of minors. It's disgusting. This is a particular thing that they are claiming we are incorrect about, but this comes from an organization called Do No Harm that has incredibly solid methodology. They've looked at anonymized insurance claim data from Medicare and Medicaid and the private insurers that's available. And again, it doesn't show who names, that kind of thing, but it shows what types of codes were reimbursed at the hospital, and they have been reimbursed for these surgeries on children. So they can claim whatever they want, but the statistics don't lie. Anyone who'd like to learn more should go to Do No Harm's website. They have a great long form write-up on their methodology, but it's totally solid.
We're talking to Will Hild with Consumers Research and their expose on Cleveland Clinic. Literally, a website called clevelandclinicexposed.com is where they have a lot of this information and a lot of this evidence. Let me read, because it's not lengthy, the response made by Cleveland Clinic yesterday. They issued this statement. The recent Consumers Research advertising campaign is riddled with inaccuracies and lies. For example, Cleveland Clinic does not provide gender-affirming surgeries for patients under the age of 18. For over 100 years, Cleveland Clinic's mission has been to care for life, research for health, and educate those who serve. We do not discriminate or create preferences based on race, gender, or any other characteristics, and we abide by ethical and legal standards of care with respect to our delivery of health care services. Cleveland Clinic is a nonpartisan organization, and we neither have nor promote a political agenda. So, I don't know if you guys are doing anything in direct response to that, issuing a statement or something on the site, or just doing interviews like this one, but how do you, Will, respond to their denial?
Well, only to say that the facts don't lie, their own statements don't lie. Everything we have put together and said about them is cited to public sources, and it says that even in you can't see it on the audio, but on the commercial, we cite where we got all this. So if they really don't believe, if they really believe we're lying, then they should sue us for libel. But I don't think they'll be doing that, because truth is a defense to libel. So that suit won't go there very, very well for them.
So and you may not be able to answer this, Will, because when I first saw it, because I'm a patient at Cleveland Clinic, my family, we live right around the corner from one. It's very, very convenient for us, and we've gotten what I feel to be pretty adequate care thus far. And I'm thinking to myself, what if I didn't want to go to the wokest hospital in America for my medical services? Where do I go? And as I said before, there are problems that have been associated with university, with, like I said, not that we'd go out of our region here too, but like I said, other cities, their hospitals, whether they're Cleveland Clinic oriented or not, have similar issues and problems, and you got to get care somewhere. So I'm sure you don't have advice on where people should go, but how do we take this information and factor it into deciding where we get our health care?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something that people are struggling with in a lot of different industries and consumer choices. I can't tell you, which hospitals in the Cleveland area, would you recommend. Obviously, that would be so fact specific to the person and what they're facing. What I will say is that this is absolutely for that exact reason. People need to be able to go into their hospital and know that they're not going to be discriminated based on their race. They're not going to have their children talked into a irreversible, lifelong, damaging surgery. And they need to believe that the prices that they're paying don't include some woke virtue signaling by the CEO on net zero nonsense. So what we're calling for, the Trump presidency has issued an executive order requesting that each of their agencies look for 9 nonprofits or corporations to investigate for violation of people's civil rights related to DEI.
Speaking with Bob Franz on The Answer.